All right. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Kate.
Morning.
Yeah, I'm
Morning,
not sure.
Bill, Claire, Lena, Emily. Hi, everybody.
Yep.
Can you hear me? I can't tell if I have audio.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Can you hear us okay, Kate?
I can, yeah. The
Okay.
problem is I keep getting the signal that I'm continuing without audio or video. I just yeah, I find this Microsoft Teams really difficult, but just because I don't have
Okay.
Microsoft, so
Yeah. We might, Julia, I'm wondering if we can add to our guidance about the possibility of joining by browser. I don't know, Kate, if that's how you're joining.
I'm just
Um,
joining by whatever browser, I guess.
Yeah, you
yeah.
can join by browser. I think I included that as one of the options
Yeah.
in that guide I sent.
Right,
It
but for
Okay.
might
some reason the video isn't. Maybe
it
there's
might
something
be
else.
set up that
Wait, let me
everyone's
see.
audio and camera is automatically turned off when they enter, so I can try to look on the back end if I can change that. I
Okay,
know it's a feature on Zoom where people can automatically come in with their camera on,
sure.
because I
I
had
think
to
that would be a
toggle
good
mine on
default.
when I entered.
Yeah.
But at least
You,
the audio's working, so
Yeah, we can hear you very well, Kate.
Yep.
okay.
okay. Well, we do have a quorum at this point. Rick is not able to join today. He's out of town. Bill has agreed to chair the meeting in his absence. I don't believe Willie will be joining, or if he does, he might be late. So I think this is everybody we're expecting. So Bill, would you like to kick us off?
Yep. I'll say welcome to everyone. And we can move on to approving the minutes from the last meeting, which will be
I can move that
February 18th.
motion.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. And now we move on to grant proposals, approvals, and updates, starting with enhancement, development, design, implementation block grant.
So I'm going to
I guess
ask
that's
Lena
me.
to present on this, and I do believe this will be, I do anticipate we'll have a longer discussion here because there are quite a few proposals. So Lena?
Yep. Good morning. So I
Morning.
sent you all the latest round of applications. These were approved for funding by a review committee that consisted of a basin planner, the grants manager from Watersheds United Vermont, Claire, and I. Our process is to rate each project according to the matrix that I sent along with my email, and then we meet to discuss them. The projects that I included in my email were all rated high and recommended for funding. So this morning, I'm asking for your approval for those projects that are over $20,000, which is required in the financial policy. So I can try to answer questions. I'd love to hear your comments.
Yeah, I did review all these that you sent out, and they look like good projects. A lot of them are less than 20,000, which is nice. One that's 225,000. That's a biggie up in Essex County.
That is, and they have a match for that. So the
Yes.
actual project is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. The match is around $312,000.
Yeah.
Fees.
Sam has been doing a number of these very large infrastructure projects up there, and he's been really good about leveraging federal funding towards it as well. So this is sort of
Yep.
more of the same from that district.
Yep.
What is this big project that they're looking to fund right now?
The one that we're talking about,
Yes.
it's a big culvert. It's on Walter's farm. And it's been one of those culverts that's been washing out both in 2024 and 25 flooding. So it's leaving people stranded. So
Mhm.
trying to fix that problem.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Good night.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know how to mute. I don't know if I can mute this. Sorry.
Okay. It's another culvert project up in Caledonia that has a huge
Yes.
to it.
Yep, that's on Standard Mountain Road. Again, culvert that's perched. It'll benefit for flooding as well as for passage, Eastern Brook Trout Passage.
Oh, okay.
We thought that the projects were really good this time. I really liked the other one from Caledonia County, coming from a municipal background. They're actually going to give up a road instead of try and fix it for millions of dollars, which I think is great.
Hey, don't tell me, common sense.
Yeah, I know.
So, Lena, they're actually going to throw up the road.
They are. They're going to downgrade it to a trail.
Oh, to a trail. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And is
I
is
guess
it being used now for
it
recreation
is.
or?
No, it's used for some, well, not necessarily, I'm sure for recreation, but it does provide access for some of the residents, but they do have a way of accessing it without using the road, accessing their property. So that's why this is being considered. There is other access.
Okay.
Putting it to a trail doesn't leave the town or the people not able to upgrade it in years to come if that's necessary.
Right.
But if they
That's
give it
true.
up 100% and goes back
Yeah,
private property, then
yeah,
you
they're
can't go
still
back.
holding, they're still holding their legal right to it.
Yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
Do you know if it's a 2-rod or a 3-rod?
It doesn't say anywhere in there, so I don't know that.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not listed, it's considered a 2-rod,
Mm-hmm.
which would be 33 feet.
Yep.
Okay.
Lena, I don't think you didn't have any maps with this, did you?
I did. They were in there was
Um,
two different folders. You had the application
okay.
and then you have the other things that I included, and they all had maps on them.
All right. Guess I missed that for some reason.
There's
And
a lot of stuff.
yeah,
Yep.
so so what so downgrading so downgrading to a trail, I guess I'm just curious about why there's cost for that.
Well, actually, the costs I think are to bring the basin back to where it was with all the flooding that happened. And
Hmm.
then they're going to have to probably take out culverts, and if there's any bridges, probably not, but culverts will have to be taken out. And then this is just as a design at this point. It's not the actual. So we'll see what is recommended in the end.
So this is where again?
This is in Peacham.
Peacham.
Yep.
Well, um, all right. I'm just trying to go back and find this application again. So the reason they're taking why do they have to take the culverts out?
Because they don't, as a town, you don't want to maintain culverts. You want to get them out of there. Otherwise, they're
Hmm.
required to maintain them. And that's extra cost. So it doesn't make sense to keep them there. Chances are they'll reuse them. That's what we used to do in the town I was in.
Take them
Yep.
out again.
Yep, they'll take them out if it's not a stone culvert, but more than likely it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it said
Lena,
this.
the big culvert projects were where again?
The big culvert was Essex, right?
Essex? And there
Let
was
me
another
see.
one.
That was East Haven. East Haven and
The other one was in Caledonia, was it?
the other one was in Caledonia. That's right.
Yeah, beaches
Yeah.
in Caledonia.
Standard Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I really had any concerns. One of the things that's a little bit, um, probably everybody's aware of all the court case that on the legal trail in Tunbridge, that had to do more with, um, whether the town could could maintain a legal trail going across private property.
Mm.
So,
If the
it's a
trail
different,
was never thrown up, it doesn't make any difference. The
yeah, well,
buyers had it in their deed that there was a trail.
that's what the courts decided.
And the other thing that could happen is during this final design, the residents in that are being affected by this could petition the board so that they don't do this, that they don't um, change it to a legal trail. So that is a possibility. They have
Yes.
that right.
Right.
Mhm.
Instead of class 4.
Yeah. Or class 3. It could be a class 3 probably.
Mm.
But
And if they
they,
do,
the
if they,
residents may not be interested in having that done because that affects their property value.
correct.
Yeah. Are
And if
they
it
just
goes to a
access?
3, the town has to maintain it 365.
Yep.
Plow and everything.
Do they does the current it doesn't do they have do the residents live on the property, or is it undeveloped property?
Yes, it's my understanding. No, it's my understanding that there are residences along this road, but they all have access from another way to get to their properties.
Legal access?
Yes. And there's a road. It's my understanding that they will not throw up a road that affects their access.
But like you mentioned, Lena, it has to go before the select board. All adjacent landowners have to attend, and it could
Yeah.
go sour.
It
They
could.
may not approve it.
It could.
Yeah.
Then, this whole thing could go back to the drawing board, but that's what the design is all about, to figure out how to move forward.
Sounds like you're right up there on the knowing about the project.
That one. The others I'm not so good about, but that
Of
one
course,
is within my wheelhouse.
of course, with your town clerk
Yeah,
past experiences, you've run into this
I
similar
have.
situations.
Yep.
I'm good.
What town were you the town clerk in, Lena?
Walden?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, little town.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really, from our point of view, I don't really see any big issues. I think the issues that might come up are going to be resolved at the local level. If residents have concerns about it, or
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's true with all.
I pulled up the map of that area, and I don't really even see many residences around there
Yeah.
that aren't on another road.
They can't artificially landlock anybody anyway.
Right.
So And that'll be brought up in the process in front of the select board.
Yeah, certainly people have opinions, undoubtedly. So,
Yeah, we might see this on the news.
yeah,
Who
right.
knows?
So, do you know what's the time frame on, getting the local support?
Yeah, within the next year, they're hoping to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on this?
Unless there's any more discussion, I'll vote to approve.
We'll need to have a motion to approve.
I'll make
And a
that
second.
motion.
Second. Those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I vote in favor of it.
Okay, very good. Sure there'll be a lot
Thank
of
you very much.
You're welcome.
happy people out there getting their funding.
We felt really good about this batch of projects. It was very strong all around, so we'll let people know and get the work started.
Yep, sounds good.
Yep.
All right, well, the next item we have for this is just an update on Trees for Streams. That grant is normally, it is managed by Jess, but she's not able to join this morning. So I'm just going to give a quick update. Our Trees for Streams program is supported by multiple different funding sources, one of which is a state woody buffer block grant, which comes from DEC through the Clean Water Fund. Another is a Lake Champlain Basin Program grant. And the update we have today is that we are in the final stages of executing the work plan for that grant. And so we anticipate that funding under that grant will be made available to districts for as soon as this spring for the fall and upcoming spring planting season. So we're moving forward with that. And I think the bigger picture update with Trees for Streams is that this has been a long-standing project of the districts. I think it was initially started by one district, Lamoille, back in maybe, I don't know, early 2000s. And then ultimately it got rolled out to the state level through VACD and then transferred to council as a sort of a signature statewide program. We've run into a little bit of, I guess, headwinds with this program recently, just because there are multiple funding streams in the state that can support tree plantings. And one of those is the state formula grants. These are the grants that are managed by the clean water service providers. So these are entities that are looking to meet specific phosphorus reduction goals, and tree plantings have been identified as one of the cheapest, easiest ways to achieve phosphorus reductions. So what that means is that the state, DEC in particular, has a strong preference that tree plantings go through the formula grants rather than through other funding streams. And that has actively reduced interest in our program. It's a little bit of a complicated issue. We've heard from some districts that they would prefer to go to our program, but they, feel this pressure or obligation to go through the formula grants. In other cases, it's just, people are applying to whatever funding source is available at the time. And so we are still getting applications from districts. I think the most recent round had maybe 9 applications, and there are some districts where we anticipate they will be doing more tree planting in the future. We think there might be more in Otter Creek, potentially in Rutland, Ottauquechee. These are some districts that are sort of either growing or sort of shifting more into this type of work. So we don't anticipate that we would be ending this program in the near future, but I just want to make you aware that we're going to be monitoring the cash flow and the demand under this program because of the competing funding sources. So that's just a big picture update. But in the interim, we do still have this new grant. It's backed by federal money, so we feel good about leveraging that towards tree planting here in the state. And again, we are, I think, funded for the program for the next 2 years. So this isn't going to be an immediate need to change anything, just sort of a general status update, but happy to answer questions.
Okay.
And Claire, the federal money comes from where?
National Fish and Wildlife Foundation,
Okay.
and then it gets passed through to Lake
Yeah.
Champlain Basin Program and then passed through to us.
Okay.
Yep.
And the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, are they funded by like a federal appropriation or?
I actually don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure the initial pot of funding that they're working with. Because we're several layers removed, we never have to directly
Yeah.
tie into that, but I can look into it. I'm sure it's in our paperwork somewhere.
Yeah, it's just curiosity, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like if it's a foundation that maybe they do a lot of private fundraising, but I don't know.
My understanding is they themselves are bringing together a lot of funding sources to run their programs, and so I'm not quite sure how it breaks down the way they pass through federal
And then they
funding to us.
distribute. Okay.
Okay.
Any other
Anything else?
questions?
Trees for streams.
Well, I don't think we have any other grant updates, so that's it for grants.
Movement updates.
Okay. So for admin updates, the first item we have is the bank account update. Just wanted to report that Lena and Bill were able to do to move the bulk of our money to Union Bank. So they made a $2,230,000 ACH payment into our new account. So our current balance with Union Bank is a little bit north of 2 million. So that has been done. We are going to keep about $50,000 in our M&T going forward. But just wanted to report back that we've done the big lift, and we'll just sort of slowly monitor the M&T account for any incoming cash. We do expect a couple of payments from the state coming to that account, so we'll likely need to do at least one more round of sort of a big round of moving money over. But Lena also has been working on changing our bank account information with the state. So hopefully our outstanding invoices right now are the last we have going to M&T, and any new ones submitted will go to Union Bank. So it's all going well. Lena, do you have any other bank account updates?
I don't. This next ACH bill I'll be doing, we'll have to do it through Union Bank. So I don't know, Claire, will you be reviewing how to do that? Because I'm not sure I even know at this point to approve
Yeah,
it.
I think Bill, since Rick is not on today, it might make sense for us to just do a quick meeting with you and Rick to go over the process. I think it's pretty straightforward on the bank account site. You shouldn't need any, like there won't be a token. You don't need any security codes. It'll be pretty straightforward, but what I can do is set up a meeting with you and Rick, screen share and just show you
Yeah.
what you'll be looking for on the website. Does that sound
would be
okay?
helpful.
Okay.
I'm planning to do an ACH like maybe Thursday or Friday. And I don't think Rick's back in time, right?
Okay.
No.
Well, I do want to schedule this separately, since this is a public meeting. I don't want to share our bank account info
Yep.
right now, but Bill, if you're able to stay on after this meeting, I can probably just show you then.
Okay. I can do
Yeah,
that.
we can do that. Okay. All right. Any questions about our bank account?
Nope, sounds like you got things under control.
We feel good about it. And Lena noted that our interest payment from Union this past month exceeded the interest payments we've ever. It was higher than any interest payment we've gotten from M&T in the past. So we're doing well. I will keep you updated, but we feel good.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a beneficial move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, thank you. Okay, so then the next item I have here is a statute update, and this is, I guess, a couple different items under this bullet point. The first thing I wanted to report out on is that at the council board meeting, we discussed that proposal about mortgages, and we also discussed this at the last finance committee meeting. We've gotten word that that language has been included in a Senate bill. So the Senate Agriculture Committee was extremely favorable to that change and has proposed it and moved it forward. That said, I have not had time to review that with the governor's office yet, which was the recommendation from the board. So I will still be doing that, but we're going to be doing that in parallel with it moving through the legislative process. So just wanted to give you that update. I think, like I said, all the district managers are in favor of this. It seems like all the district supervisors are in favor that I've heard from, and that we talked about through council. It is really just that one reservation of we need to be going through the state process in the future. So I'll try to work on that and report back, but that's just an update with the mortgage change. Any questions about that?
Good news.
Yeah.
It'll get through.
We have some support in the legislature. I think they're happy to help us out any way they can, even though budgets can be tight. I guess the other news on that front, though, is that the VACD request for the district budget has been included in multiple budget memos coming out of, I believe, I forget which direction it's going right now. I believe they were Senate budget memos, but it made it into at least 3 budget memos from 3 different committees. So, and it was made the list of the top priorities for the appropriations committee. So we feel good about the budget request. It's a much stronger position than we were with the legislature. So keep you updated on that. The other thing, I guess that was a little bit of a tangent.
Claire,
Yeah,
just real quick, have you heard any opposition from anybody, any legislators or any committees?
Nothing active. I think what the most common response that isn't full support is it's a tight budget year.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah, that's always okay. Yeah, good to hear.
But no specific concerns about the number. Usually when people say it's a tight budget year, they say they understand the need. So we don't have any like theoretical concerns or opposition to us as an entity. It's just try to manage our expectations, I guess.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn to the other statute topic. And I guess this is to refresh the committee on this. Kate, I don't know if you were part of a committee when we last talked about this. The council board voted to create a statute committee. That has not gotten up and running yet. It is on my to-do list, and it is one of the things I'm trying to do in the very near future. One of the things that has been bogged down with the statute review process. So this is a process to review Title 10, Chapter 31, potentially also Title 10, Chapter 33. So the entirety of the enabling statute of the conservation district system. This has been bogged down for several reasons. One is simply staff capacity. The other is that the last time we tried to have these conversations, it was through a VACD committee, and there were a lot of reservations expressed about not knowing the implications of what some of the changes would be, which is completely valid. And so a lot of the work I've been doing with state agencies and the AG's office over the past year has been, I think, trying to get a better grasp on what some of the implications of the changes might be. So I think at this point we are in a better position to know that. And I'm trying to pull together some materials so that when this committee gets started, we're not sort of starting from a place of an open-ended, what do you think kind of discussion, but there are some consolidated points to consider, and then also maybe some supporting materials that can be brought into the conversation. So I'm going to share my screen, I guess. I did send out a memo or two documents. One was a sort of blue line document of our existing statute and what some of the language changes might be. This is by no means a final recommendation. It's just to try to highlight areas where we might want to focus. And the second document is a list of the topics that we might want to consider. So kind of two ways to show the same information. I'm going to show the list. Okay. Okay, here it is. So I arranged this list sort of in order of maybe easy to hard or most immediate to more difficult. So this first item is ongoing. Like this is actively in a bill in the Senate, and this is the language about the mortgages. These other items up top, I think you could consider cleanup items or items that would need to be made for legal compliance reasons. So one of the things that's been noted is that our board, in statute, it lists entities that either no longer exist or that the function has moved elsewhere. So, for example, we list the State Forest and Parks Board. I can't find that. I don't believe it exists anymore. So if we wanted to keep this function represented, I think it would be changed to Commissioner of the Departments of Forests, Parks and Rec. That said, this would give A&R 2 reps on council.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we did that and like did that cleanup, it would actually give A&R 2 reps on council. So just trying to lay out that we probably would need explicit consideration of that rather than just changing the name. It would functionally potentially change the composition of council. The State Fish and Wildlife Board exists, but we have not had a member from that entity in recent history. I can try to reach out to them. Or there could be a consideration of changing this again to the department within A&R. The State Planning Office no longer exists. I believe that its functions were assumed by the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. But in the legislature, there's an active proposal to bring back the State Planning Office. So those are some things that could be categorized as a cleanup item, but actually maybe have some stronger implications we would want to work through or at least discuss with council. Also, VACD is not listed as an advisory member, but that has been our longstanding practice. So we could consider adding them in statute. Some other cleanup items, the landowner language was flagged by council when this was discussed by the legislature 2 years ago. There's a concern that tying voting to land ownership is no longer legal. So if we did change that. Jennifer Byrne has done some research into what other states do. And a lot of states either use residents or occupier of land. Others might use eligible voter. So just wanted to flag all those. All right, I see somebody is joining us, so I'm going to admit them. Hi, I see we've had somebody join by phone.
Yeah, it's Michelle. Sorry, I'm just going to listen while I'm driving to the State House.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. So, and then there are some other cleanup items. So things like things that might just be totally irrelevant, an on-site sewage program. Process for creating districts has been cited as potentially unnecessary, though I would argue we do need that language or some substitute language, language around a council adopting a seal, things like that. So this top section is sort of things that could potentially be dealt with as cleanup items or might be compelled by legal issues. Other potential changes that I think would be more sort of robust proposals based on operational need or sort of what our vision for council would be. So per diem language, right now we have this strange situation where district per diem rates are being tied to state per diem schedules. We may want to make a recommendation that districts are empowered to set their own per diem rates, or that there's an alternate way of setting rates for districts. That has been a very difficult process for us to deal with. There's the supervisor election process. This was discussed during our last sort of time that we were focusing on our statute. So we could, review our election process against other areas of state law that deal with elections and then align our election process with municipal elections broadly. Or at the very least, we could potentially put some standardization to district elections, like standardize the dates or standardize certain other forms and mechanisms. We could try to identify a dedicated funding mechanism. This is an active area of conversation with the legislature. We have a couple of senators and a couple of House reps that are actually interested in taking on this issue. So if we find one, it would have to be incorporated into our statute. We could clarify district municipal status. Our longstanding guidance has been that districts are municipalities, but our statute does not say that. And this becomes an issue when we're navigating district eligibility for certain state programs and benefits. We could clarify council status. Council is an agency of the state, but it is not structured, staffed, or resourced like an agency. It could be clarified that it is an agency, and if so, we would need to work towards, making that the reality. Or council could be shifted to being a state board, but in that case, I would recommend that there be explicit language about how it's administratively supported. We could consider updating the composition of council. This has been thrown out there. For example, the idea that there's one voting member per district rather than supervisory union. There was an idea thrown out that agency partners could be relegated to a non-voting status because that is how some other states do it. Or we could add additional agency partners to represent, for example, the composition of the agricultural clean water partnership, or draw in other relevant agencies that deal with district work, like the Agency of Community Development and Commerce. There was a suggestion a while back about potentially eliminating supervisory unions. That would have to be its own conversation. And then there's been some suggestions about adding specific duties or missions to the district, such as explicitly laying out soil health, fleshing out the clean water mandate, or adding flood resiliency or drought resiliency. And that would be potentially for districts to situate themselves in more of a identified or clarified role of how they provide services in the state. We could remove or amend the rule authority of a district. Districts do currently have a rule-making mechanism. It's not used. So we could discuss that. And this is very low on the list because that has been the sticking point, one of the most contentious issues that we've discussed so far. And so my recommendation is if we open that up, it would be later in the process. And then these last two are going to be more we're in a position of reacting to things that might happen elsewhere in the state. So on an ongoing basis, we need to keep an eye on other bills coming through the legislature that might be relevant to council or districts. And then there are two study committees, the County and Regional Governance and the Regional Stormwater Utility study committees. And what gets recommended through those committees will likely require some kind of response from districts, potentially changes to district statute as a result of those conversations. So I just went over this overview. The reason I'm bringing this to you today is not because we need to make decisions on this, but because I am planning to start up the statute committee. And before I do that, I want to give you the opportunity to weigh in, see if there's any items that you think are missing on this list, or if you have any other recommendations about how to present this to the statute committee once it starts up.
I do have a question.
Yes.
This Act 181 that they're talking about, which if it does pass, will give the state a lot more control of properties. That'll affect anything the district wants to do, because then they're going to have to tie in the state to be able to do their project. I don't know how this board feels, but I know myself personally and other people feel that's a bad act, period.
Mm-hmm. I think Michelle's been more involved with Act 181, but I certainly can list that here and under one of the last bullet points as something that, as an example of something we need to keep an eye on and potentially react to in the future.
Because it may affect the projects that we do.
Yeah. So I would probably list Act 181 in this bottom bullet point here as an example. Yeah. Any other questions, concerns, topics that we've discussed that are not included on the list but should be?
That I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
It occurs to me that if we want this committee to look at development review laws, that it should be more broad in scope than just Act 181. I mean, honestly, I've read a little bit about Act 181. I'm not real. I don't totally understand it and understand the repercussions, but it just seems like it's there are a lot of other development rules or regulations that concern development of land that may or may not be equally have effect on how land is used. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we would want to specifically say Act 181, but may not even pass.
True.
I could broaden that yes to something like land development review processes or land management planning.
actually, there may be other regulations that are equally, if not more, have a stronger influence on land development than Act 181. But I don't know that. I'm just
Sure.
saying it's the potential.
But Act
Yeah.
181 will make it even more difficult. And like you already said, Kate, there's enough regulation out there that I don't see where they need this. This is trying to manage all our properties out of Montpelier. Not fair.
And districts would be in the position of, dealing with whatever the outcome of those acts are, supporting
Yeah.
landowners with, it could potentially impact how districts develop projects and things like that in the future. Okay, so I can include that a little bit of a broadened scope. Act 181 could be an example, but there are potentially other ways that land management and regulations happen at the state level that we may need to react to in the future. Okay. All right. Do you feel okay with this as a representative list or to take to the new committee as a starting point for conversation? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good list.
Yeah, it seems pretty comprehensive, that's for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to work on that in the future. I think part of this, we often focus a lot on reviewing sort of districts and making sure districts are supported. Obviously, the main driving force behind our budget work in the legislature is to get districts more money. I will say a lot of the work I've been doing recently has highlighted the need to also review council and its structure. So I'm hoping to talk through a separate document I put together, just specifically focused on that. But I just wanted to see if there's any other questions before I move to that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I am going to shift to this next topic. It's the next bullet point on the agenda, but I want to flag that we have some additional admin updates that we'll need to circle back to at the end of the meeting, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So I'm sure this is a work in progress. So this is by no means final. I had intended to send this out to you before the meeting and did not get it done. But at our last budget meeting with the Agency of Agriculture, Secretary Tebbets requested that we come to our next meeting with some information about alternate ways to structure council. We've had, as I think you know, we've had a longstanding issue with council in the sense that it's a state entity that does not have state employees and does not have explicit administrative support from any agency. So we're a little out in the wind, and that's becoming more and more of an issue the more that council and the district's profile gets raised within state government consciousness. And so there have been elements of having to deal with this over the past year. For example, the procurement policy that we approved by the board. And then there's other stuff sort of in the works on the back end. For example, right now I'm at the A&R building because that's a requirement of public meeting law that there be a physical location. A&R has allowed me to use this space, but that's been complicated because I don't have security access. And so I don't have a lot of control over setting up these meetings. Or even there have been instances where I cannot get access to the building in a timely way. So these are all sort of the basic operational issues that we run into on a day-to-day basis, just trying to work through council. So I think Secretary Tebbets' suggestion of looking at doing a review of similar entities in state law is a good one. And I think it could give us some ideas about how to change statute for council, or if we don't change anything, at the very least, it can give us a viewpoint on how similar entities are supported so that we can actually advocate for that kind of support from the state. So here's what I'm putting together. This is a review of existing state entities that could have some similarity to council. The first category here are boards. So Land Use Review Board, Fish and Wildlife Board, Clean Water Board, Working Lands Enterprise Board. The reason I'm including these is because council is organized as a board. And so when you look across state government and see other boards, there are specific ways that those boards are set up. Usually they have a supporting agency identified, ANR, AOA, etc. This one's Agency of Agriculture. And there's usually language that says that an agency is specifically responsible for the administration of that board. We don't have that. So highlighting that difference, the board structure, how are other boards composed, who's on them, who appoints them, etc. I don't anticipate we want to change much about our structure there, but it's a point of comparison. Staffing structure, obviously we have no state employees. Every board that I've seen either can hire an executive director who is an employee or has a specific state employee tasked with ensuring administration. So that's another point of comparison. Funding, we have no dedicated source of funding. Other boards do, either through fees or through legislative appropriations. Or sometimes they are just supported directly out of the budget of the agencies that are tasked with supporting them. And then just a summary here at the bottom of key points of comparison, why this might be relevant, why not. The second category here are agencies, departments, and quasi-governmental structures. So council, although it's organized as a board, I think this is actually where we find the most similarities in terms of function, roles, duties, responsibilities. The one that I think is actually weirdly the most comparable is the Department of Sheriff's Attorneys, or of states attorneys and sheriffs. Obviously, completely different area from our work, but this is a standalone entity in state government that is organized as a board with membership from their constituents who are county level government functions. And so I think this is one area where we can do some more digging and find out some comparable ways that the state functions. They do have an executive director. He is a state employee. They do hire more state employees. I think they have 14 total. And then they have a full budget within the state system. But there's other examples. So for example, the regional planning commissions, who we often cite as being comparable entities to the districts, they are directly supported by the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Mostly this is pass-through funding, but the agency actually has an interesting role in approving RPC creation the same way council does. So that's an interesting comparable function. Obviously, this is a full state agency with state staff and state budget. And then VHCB, the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, is a quasi-governmental entity. It is organized as a board, but it's an independent entity and their staff are not state employees. So this is another way we could potentially go with council if we wanted to make changes. This is sort of interesting that they have legislative language saying that this board defined by law will hire an executive director, but that executive director is not a state employee, but they can call on the state attorney general's office. It's this weird splitting the line between being a nonprofit and being a state entity. It's interesting. So that's another example. And then finally down below, which I have not started filling in, but this is the national level comparisons. By and large, across the country, districts are supported either by an agency of natural resources, an agency of agriculture, or an independent council, commission, or board. And so I'm going to try to fill this in to give examples about what other states do. But I wanted to present this to you, I guess, wanted to just keep you in the loop on this. This would be potentially presented to the council board in the future, and then presented to the Agency of Agriculture as part of our next budget meeting with them. But in sort of going over this, are there other points of comparison you think would be useful to have, or other entities that I should be looking into? So right now I'm comparing based on entity type, supporting agencies, board structure, staffing structure, funding structure. Are there any other points of comparison that you think would be really relevant to look at?
I don't necessarily can think of any other entities who've done a pretty complete job, but one thing about operating as a board, either as a quasi public entity or otherwise, is it gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of accepting funding, and I mean, we just went through the whole procurement, changing that to be aligned with state regulations. I think there'd be a lot more flexibility for that. I mean, that's I think that we probably want to be careful about becoming completely independent just because we want to continue the good relationship with agencies, and I presume that those agencies would be represented on a board if we went that way. Vermont is sort of, I think, unique in having all these sort of hybrid, board / agency structures, and part of that I don't know why that is, but part of it may be just because we don't have a county government system. I don't know, but anyway, I'm not sure other states do it as much as Vermont does, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think you're, when I talk with other folks from other states, they they point out how different Vermont is from their own states. And so I think it'll be interesting looking at the national comparisons, but the degree to which that makes sense in the Vermont context, that we'll have to seriously consider that, because, most other states have county government. And so maybe I should add that actually down here is explicitly trying to pull out the county government element. Maybe that goes in the funding structure or some other structure, but I think that it will be relevant. That'll be relevant information with the ongoing work of the County and Regional Governance Study Committee. I think they're interested in that question as well. So are the legislators who are interested in getting us funding. We often, when we're talking with them, say, well, in other states, districts are part of county government, so they get county level taxes. And they obviously point out we don't have that, so what's the recommendation? So that might be something good to pull out here.
Yeah, and my understanding is that counties in Vermont don't have the legislative authority to collect taxes or to raise money, and so that's part of the reason.
Yeah,
I mean, to go that route, it would take, I think, pretty dramatic change. If that's the case, as I understand it, it would take pretty dramatic change in statute.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't think we'd want
yeah. So one of my next steps, just so you know, I actually know the executive director for the Department of States Attorneys and Sheriffs. I'm hoping to have a meeting with him in the near future to sort of talk up through like what works, what doesn't work, how things are funded, how things work, because I really do think this is sort of the most direct comparison. Maybe not. Maybe I'll find out it's wildly different, but I'm hoping to sit down with him and just like talk through some basic questions. So I don't know if you have any specific questions for them. I can certainly pass those on as well. Emily, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to phrase this, but another area of interest which might sort of come out of these other sections but might not is I'm curious about these different groups if they are structurally similar to council in terms of interacting with other entities such as the districts. So do they have some sort of supervisory or guidance capacity for other organizations that are doing their own work? That's one area that I feel like is obviously really relevant to the work we do and would be curious if any of these other
Yeah.
um, organizations, obviously when you look at what the districts and other states are doing, that's really relevant, but I'm curious if there's anything analogous in these other organizations you're looking up.
Yeah. I didn't have a separate line for that, but I tried to capture that in some of the notes down here. That actually probably is just a good thing to pull out as a separate line. To say like yes, no. Um, because some of them do. So like the state's attorneys and sheriffs are supported directly by this state entity here. RPCs are supported directly by this agency. Um, but the others don't. So like VHCB doesn't, the boards don't, none of the boards do. So yeah, I can highlight that too. Any other questions or comments about this?
I think it's an interesting exercise to go through this, to look at those issues and see what we can come up with.
Yeah. I will say one of the big things that's just jumping out at me going through all of this is again the fact that council seems to be unique in having no direct connection to either state employees or an agency that is responsible for its administration. And that does relate to the next topics I'm hoping to report out on. But any other questions?
Yeah, going back in history, at one time we did have a state employee.
Yes.
Originally was with ANR or DEC. I don't remember which because he was gone before I started. But
Mhm.
then they switched us to Agency of Ag, and then I guess that employee retired, and that was the end of it. We were left with nothing.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was John Anderson. He was,
Yes, you're correct.
yeah. And then I don't remember. I don't know if he retired or he just quit or whatever, but yeah, he was never replaced.
Right.
Yeah.
Before that, I believe it was a Jack Burns.
Hmm.
Okay. Any other questions, suggestions?
No, I think you've done a pretty good
Yep.
in-depth review, Claire.
It's been a long-standing issue. Just it seems like these questions pop up periodically in every year since I joined about 6 years ago. So I'm glad to have this down on paper.
Yep.
I think it'll be a good conversation to have with council, even if there's no immediate action. And then I think it can help inform the statute work we'll do. And um, and maybe help us, explain a little better when we're interfacing with other state agencies about, why things are the way they are with council. So I guess on that note, we do have some other like last minute admin updates.
Okay.
So, Bill, are you okay if we add that to the agenda?
Sure. No problem. We have other businesses required, so that fits.
Here we go. So Julia is here, can help me talk through some of this, but just a quick background. Several years ago, this would have gone back to 2021. We put in a request with the state for council to get a phone number, and some other, basic items like emails, etc. We've gotten the emails, we've gotten the website, We are now working on the phone number. And we had a meeting yesterday with Agency of Digital Services about that. So, Julia, I don't know if you want to add more now or if you want me to go over the meeting.
Yeah, I would just say it looks like we can get a phone number. The phone number would be a voice over IP phone number. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. VoIP is like the acronym. And so it would be a number people could call into, but the external, like if we were calling out, it would still be from our personal cell phones. But we still think this is a good next step because currently a personal cell phone is listed publicly as like the council phone number for people to contact, and it's not good policy to have people's personal numbers out there on the internet, but we just haven't had another option. So we think this is a great next step. From the conversation we had yesterday, it seems like it's not going to cost us anything at this point because it would just be a phone number people would call into. It'd be like housed in the cloud on the internet. There'd be a voicemail box attached, and then we could have an option where people could say press 0 and be forwarded to Claire's phone number if we choose, but they would never see Claire's number. So it would like kind of hide it for a bit unless Claire were to call someone back. So that's the basics of there were a couple of options presented, but without us having state computers, this seemed like the best option to go with. And we can take that phone number if we choose to use a different option later down the road, which is also very helpful. So if we start publicizing this phone number, it's not like in a year's time someone has a state computer and now we've got to use a different phone number other places. Was that a good enough overview, Claire?
It is, and I wanted to give you the opportunity because you've been the one working on this most in the background for us, and
I
trying
just
to
keep
push this
nudging
forward.
people at the state, and they finally got back to us.
Yes. But I would just add, so I think this is sort of a no-brainer for us, that we would get a number. It's again transferable. We could have that number in perpetuity, regardless of what systems we use. It won't cost us anything. So to me, it seems like this is a good way to go for council right now. We would have the option of switching to like landline, et cetera, later if we wanted to. So does anyone have any concerns about this?
No, I think it's actually a good direction to go. Untying your personal phones
Right.
is to me, the direction you should be going.
Right.
And then it'll also show that council is its own entity.
Right.
Right. And that's the other benefit is that this number would stay the same even if our staff change. So yeah, we wouldn't
No,
have to update that in the future.
it's a good update, good move. Keep
Yep.
going.
Yeah, makes sense.
So great. I think we'll keep moving this forward. I think we could have a number as soon as later this week, maybe next week. It sounded like it could move pretty quickly. But there were a couple other questions that came out of the meeting with ADS. One of them was, do we have a billing code? So I don't think this number is we're not going to be charged anything for it. But part of this was, talking through other options that would have cost money. ADS realized that we don't have a billing code. So they actually put in a request for us to get a billing code in the state system. And as of this morning, it looks like that's been created. So council has never had a way, there's never been a way for a state agency to charge council directly for anything. There's never been anything to charge council for. So it's been a moot point. But this, I think, would be good for us in the future, now that we have this billing code, because if we do need to do something like get a state laptop or get a landline or anything else that the state would charge for example, insurance, that's been an outstanding issue. We now have a place where that could be charged and it would be billed directly against our core services agreement. So that's not necessarily a problem. Our core services for council is supposed to support things like this. But just to let you know, the state would now have a way to bill council directly instead of some kind of roundabout way through the Agency of Agriculture. So we now have a billing code. It's not being used for anything currently, but it does exist. Yeah, I'll take questions on that if you have any or comments. So the other question that came out of the meeting is, would it be appropriate for us to have state laptops or a state office? The state office space has sort of been in the background. We made a request at ANR. They said they don't have space, so that hasn't gone anywhere. Hoping to touch base with Building and General Services to see if they just have unused space somewhere and just see what the options would be. We're not making any commitments. We're just exploring right now. But if we were to get office space, a physical location in the future, it could potentially be charged against the billing code. The benefit of a physical location is not just having staff work there, it's having a physical location to list on our legal forms, like our SAMS registration and banking information. So that would be a benefit in the future. Again, nothing right now to report today. We're just having those conversations. The other thing, again, is the question of the laptops. Right now, our staff all use personal cell phones and laptops. It's been working so far, but it does come with some limitations because we cannot host certain state software on our computers. So we ran into an issue with the phone number. They couldn't give us a landline because we don't have an office. They couldn't give us their next best option because of our computer situation. So these might be things to tackle in the future, but we're going to leave it alone for now and just go with the phone number and see where things take us. But just wanted to report out on those conversations.
Yeah.
So
the only caution I have with the laptops is to find out from them, if we get to that point, what we can put on them, because our district does not have a federal laptop at this point in time. Yeah. Because we cannot do a lot of things on the federal laptop that we need to do. So we had to have two computers. And the federal laptop required us to go into the office every so many days to let it update itself. It was really a nuisance for us. So we gave it up. We may establish it in the future as we move into an ag person that will need to access the training on the federal system. So we are talking with them about that, but it's just an issue to make sure. Having been a state employee and having a state laptop, I knew there were things I could not do with that.
Yeah, I think our big ones would be the QuickBooks software and some of our potential payroll and pay item software. Okay, so that's noted. That's a very good point, and we will make sure to look into that in the future if this comes up. Julia?
I just wanted to add that you're right, Bill. It would be an issue since we're all contracted to work from the state, and a lot of our systems are still very tied to VACD, which is Google based instead of Microsoft based. But one of the options they did give us was a tablet, which could be cheaper. They're going to get us price points, and so that could be something where we could have the phone number, we could host Teams meetings on it, and it'd be a little bit more separate. But we're, as Claire said, we're looking at all the options, getting all the prices, but we're not committed to anything.
Yeah, I think the tablet would be a good option because it could be for the entity rather than, the person, potentially tied to our generic NRCC email as opposed to a personal email. So we'll look into that. One thing they did note, or I guess ADA, or Agency of Digital Services, pointed out was that they usually don't allow state functions to happen on private laptops because of FOIA requests, that people's personal information might accidentally get swept up in any request for government information. So they said their best practice is, to keep things separate. Obviously, that seems like the ideal scenario, but we're operating without state employees and with a limited budget. So we'll just see. We're just going to see. I don't feel any urgency around this since we have operated the way we've operated for a very long time. But I am glad that we now have Julia to help push some of this forward and ask all these questions and do some problem solving. So, yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Those are the only items I wanted to report out on, I think. Julia, was there anything else?
Not on the tech side of things. Oh, I guess related to the website, I don't know if this is more as the general board, but we have added the section about the supervisory unions, and I know the Southeast Zone had or is going to have their annual meeting, and so just putting it out there that if you're having your meetings, I can publicly post the information.
We already had our meeting.
Yes,
Last
I
month.
had the meeting posted. I think I need to talk to maybe Corey about getting the recording to get it up there.
Yeah, we've had good response on that so far. I need to follow up with Rutland and Otter Creek about their supervisory union. We'll probably be supporting that meeting directly. And then I know I just got an email this morning from the Northwest requesting some support because they are very new to this idea of supervisory union meetings. So I'll be supporting them as well.
Okay.
Okay. Bill, I think that's the end of our agenda. Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? So we can request a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second it.
Second. We have a second.
Aye.
We all approve.
Sounds like we're released. All right. Well, thank you,
All those in
everyone. It was good to
favor,
see you
aye.
this morning.
All right, bye-bye.